Welcome back. We just have a few seconds for the markets to open. The SGX Nifty is indicating a very bullish start. And actually, so are the currencies. All the currencies in Asia are actually indicating stronger Asian currencies vis-a-vis the dollar. And therefore, we should get a strong rupee opening as well. That's about 0.25%. Okay, I'm sure the Nifty and the Sensex will settle down, starting more tepid than what the SGX Nifty indicated. But I think the rupee is starting very strong. I think it's going to be 70 rupees to a dollar. We stopped at 70, 30, 35 yesterday. So it's straight away about 35 pice cheaper dollar, I think, is what we are going to see in the first tick. But now the markets are showing a little more strength, 1/3% higher. Something you want to say?
On crude, actually, the stocks that are reacting on the upside are the ones, the crude beneficiaries. So Asian Paints is actually a top gainer, up almost about 2%. HPCL, which has been one of the strongest stocks this month, almost 10% higher on HPCL. This morning, HPCL is up another 10% or so. And, a couple of other names, aviation stocks, etc., also looking pretty good.
You may see the IT stocks give up a bit, maybe. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm just making a very simplistic correlation. It may not work that way at all. But the rupee is clearly strong today.
Okay, let's welcome Mr. S.P Tulsian into our conversation as well. Mr. Tulsian, good morning. I wanted to discuss this letter that came in from the Tata Sons chairman to the employees. I mean, he did speak about some macro issues, liquidity concerns, etc., and some challenges that the entire group is facing. What would you do with these Tata Group stocks? I mean, stocks like Tata Motors have done nothing for investors this year. But any standout performers that you see for 2019?
See, Sonia, I think that that letter should have come maybe a couple of months back earlier, because if you just take on their two acquisitions which they made in 2006 and 2007, that is Chorus of 13.2 billion and JLR of about 3.4 billion. And both are seen to be struggling quite a lot. And in fact, we have been trying to console ourselves on Tata Steel that Thyssen Group JV will see the reduction in the debt to 20,000 crore, their aggression of acquiring Bhushan Steel for 42,000 crore. And that has made Tata Steel to have the debt of over 1 lakh crore, 100,000 crore. So that is seen to be a big concern. Come on, the Tata Motors, in fact, that is not seen to be, even struggling on JLR, which contributes 90% to. So I'm just first referring the two big takeovers or big acquisitions which they've done a decade back, and still they are seen to be struggling. Now, if I take a call on their other group companies, I don't find any attraction in any of the companies except TCS. Maybe from a growth point of view, I'm not trying to be sounding critical or maybe negative on the stocks, because Tata Chemicals seem to be the flattish kind of things in spite of the largest player on the global scale in the soda ash space, or maybe Tata Global, because nothing has seemed to be taking off on that front. Also, Indian Hotel again is seen to be struggling, and the smaller companies like Voltas or maybe Rallis India and all these things. So my point is that the growth is seen to be missing, but concern is seen more on these two stocks, Tata Steel and Tata Motors, where the debt is seen to be piling up. Even in Tata Motors, they have given the capex plan of more than 90,000 crore in the next 4 or 5 years, and that is seen again to be a big question mark on their potential and capacity to go ahead. So, except for TCS, I honestly don't find any attraction or any investment-worthy calls on for taking call on any of the Tata stocks.
Okay. TCS, of course, is the second best performer in the Nifty, with a gain of 48 or 46% year to date, which is actually a year-on-year performance as well. Let's listen to what the Tata Group chairman actually said to his employees. The letter that he has written, Chandra says, N. Chandrasekaran says, that one Tata policy and the vision of the 3S, simplifying, synergizing and scaling, has worked for him in 2018, and the group has in total spent over $10 billion to deleverage and restructure Tata Group companies. Kritika Saxena actually has with us the key takeaways of this letter that Chandrasekaran has written to Tata employees.
In his annual letter to employees, N. Chandrasekaran, the chairman of Tata Sons, has pointed out some key areas. So let's start one by one on the highlights of this letter. To begin with, N. Chandrasekaran has outlined that in total, the group has committed over 70,000 crore rupees, that's $10 billion, in deleveraging and restructuring Tata companies, consolidating holdings and acquiring assets. This is to enhance and carry forward the One Tata and the 3S strategy that N. Chandrasekaran had devised. They have also crossed 10 lakh crore rupees in 2018 alone. Now, to outline what exactly has been done, he gives an example of the aerospace and defense vertical, for instance, that has been consolidated into a single unified entity, and similarly they are reducing subsidiaries, exiting non-core businesses and aligning operations across the board. Over and above that, he's gone on to give an example of how they are ensuring that they utilize the group strengths. For instance, Tata Motors, in its electric vehicles push, is partnering with Tata Cap for financing and Tata Power for charging infra network, and that is going to be the strategy in the years to come. Now, as we say hi to 2019, N. Chandrasekaran has said that yes, the new year will bring macro challenges. In fact, he's outlined, and this is very critical, that global liquidity is very clearly tighter than it was earlier, and that is going to be a challenge going forward. 2019 is going to bring with it a set of issues, and with that, of course, is going to be a high political uncertainty with the upcoming elections in India. But he admits that, yes, the performance in 2018 was mixed and there is a lot more work to do ahead. But they are in a better position by the end of 2018 than they were when they started the year.
Okay. Well, we'll play you that letter again and again. It's interesting. It's one of the largest Indian groups, about 2 lakh crore in terms of total assets. And therefore, when he is warning about what he sees as potential dangers in 2019, we have to sit up and listen. Well, Sanjeev, any Tata stocks that you like? Titan, for instance?
Yeah, so for us, I think 2019 will see two Tata stocks maybe outperform, and they will be Tata Steel and Tata Global. Tata Global has seen a lot of weakness, fallout of some of the Starbucks franchise, some of the local businesses. But we think this is one of the best consumption stocks, and closer to this 215, it's finding all the negatives priced in. We think the next 2 quarters could see a sharp uptick, and we get more color on the demerging of the consumption with the Tata Chemical. I think this stock can be a relative outperformer. Tata Steel, again, the debt overhang remains, but we think steel prices are very, very strong, and we think that price hikes are going to be the order of the day. Input costs are controlled, and we think once the ThyssenKrupp merger starts to take shape, Tata Steel and some of the other metal stocks could be outperformers in 2019.
Okay. Mr. Tulsian, I wanted to ask you about the banks, the public sector banks. We've been talking about them and talking about them and talking about them, the prompt corrective action, the capitalization. Finally, now we know some of the numbers that is coming in terms of capital. Would you still go and buy any of them?
See, Lata, if you want to play on the PCA norms theory, then probably Bank of India only stands out, and one can add the OBC in that category. But apart from that, in the non-PCA list, probably the two stocks comes to my mind is one is SBI and second is Bank of Baroda, because Bank of Baroda is going to see the merger of the other two banks, getting completed, Vijaya Bank and Dena Bank, and that will be seen a positive move once the swap ratio is getting announced. The scalability and the synergy all will start kicking in. So you just have to focus, be selective on the PSU banks on these 4 stocks: SBI, Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, and OBC.
Okay, well, for now, the pre-opening rates have settled with a 40-point gain on the Nifty. 10,820 is where we're at, led by Titan, which is the biggest gainer, now up about 2%. But it has banks in the main, movers list. So Yes Bank, Axis Bank, IndusInd Bank are all higher. ICICI Bank as well is in the green. Mr. Tulsian, I wanted your thoughts on, we've discussed Bajaj Finance earlier in the past, but it's the biggest gainer this year, almost a 50% up move. And, from the lows in October itself, it's gained about 32-odd%. You see more to go here?
See, Sonia, we are, in fact, the valuations seem to be quite stretched, because even if you factor in the growth of about 30-35%, which we need to expect from the company, the valuations are again on a relative basis when compared to the peers seem to be quite stretched, because other NBFCs having pedigree and not seen to be having any issues of the liquidity crunch, or maybe they even borrowing at a lower rate, like L&T Finance or maybe M&M Finance, where the growth is also seen to be quite reasonable, maybe anywhere between 18 to 20%. So on taking that call on a relative basis, we will not be too comfortable buying Bajaj Finance at the current level.
Okay. Well, Mr. Tulsian, always a pleasure having you with us, and we will touch base with you again on closing bell and, of course, clear a whole lot of queries with you. At the moment, 1/3% higher on the Sensex and the Nifty, almost that much. Mid-caps are doing a little better, and the Bank Nifty is doing the best. Private sector banks, almost all of them, are in a fairly fine fettle with a deep hue of green on them. On that note, let's get our 9-10 calls going. Ashwini, what would be your 9-10 call?
Like I expected, the Bank Nifty will come back today. In fact, it's likely to open above yesterday's high. And, the way it's opening, I would think that there will be follow-through, especially on banks and even on the Nifty. Having said that, NIT Tech, you can buy with a stop of 1135, target of 1180.
Okay, NIT Tech seems to be the hot favorite today. But Lemon Tree Hotels, by the way, is up almost 13.5% right now on the back of that JV with Warburg Pincus. Mitesh, what would your 9-10 call be, and any interest at all in stocks like Lemon Tree Hotels?
Yeah, I think, very clearly this news should see the stock open the gap up, and if it starts getting past 72, which is where I suspect it will open beyond that level, then I think the stock should trigger some kind of an uptrend with targets close to about 80 on the upside. My 9-10 idea is United Spirits, buy with a stop at 622 for targets of 650.
That's in true Friday spirit, isn't it, Mitesh? Well, what about you, Prakash?
I'll go with Tech Mahindra. Certainly looking good. I think it's heading up to levels closer to 720 zones, stop below 700.
Okay. Sanjeev, you gave us a lot of 2019 ideas. But before I come to that, a word on the banks. Are you also fishing in the PSU waters?
So 3 stocks which stand out, it will be State Bank, Canara Bank and Indian Bank. Bank of India, like you pointed, Bank of India and OBC will be the biggest beneficiaries of the recapitalization. But we'd rather go with the top 3 names which we suggested. We think there is more safety, there is more conviction, and we think the visibility is more clearer. They will be definite beneficiaries of the fiasco with NBFCs, and we think asset quality should see a lot of improvement in the coming quarters.
Okay. On the just a quick word on the auto stocks as well, Sanjeev, before we let you go, because yesterday our colleague was telling us that inventory levels are very high, especially in the passenger car SUV space. Would you be a bit cautious here?
Yes and no, but the price is giving you the performance. So similar was the weakness in Maruti at 6,700, and you saw almost a 12% rally. Now same is the case which I can make out for, say, an Ashok Leyland, where we see the LCM, LCV and the MHV, where we'll see a lot of traction before the budget. There will be pre-budget buying, and you will see the release of inventory. We think the second quarter will start to see a lot of traction on the upside. So 3 stocks which I can be more bullish on would be Ashok Leyland, Bajaj Auto and TVS Motors. Bajaj Auto and TVS Motor on the back. Bajaj Auto is seeing a lot of traction in the competitor to Eicher Motor on the Royal Enfield, and their subcontinent business is doing exceedingly well. And TVS, because of its gaining market share in South and more regions, and the scooty being a very, very big appreciation in both the urban and the rural markets.
Okay. Sanjeev, always a pleasure having you with us. Thank you very much for joining in and giving us some of your 2019 picks as well. Have a great 2019 if we don't speak to you on Monday. Well, the markets look like are going to open with 1/3% higher. We still have a minute, so let's squeeze in some more technical views. Titan is actually the biggest gainer, as we were discussing with Sanjeev. It's actually found resistance at that 925, 930 mark repeatedly. Ashwini, is it good to go this time, past that?
See, the market will need to cross 11,000 for a lot of stocks to get into fresh ground. But it will be one of the first that will get to new highs. I think 960 to 1,000 is a problem area, but one that will get crossed shortly.
Okay. Okay. What about you on a couple of these NBFCs like India Bulls Housing Finance, Prakash? after a 20% rally this month?
I think I like India Bull Housing from a slightly longer term perspective. I think it's heading to levels perhaps closer to around 940, 950 zones. And a stop below 800 should be fine. It's a matter of time. It's going up there. Maybe a slow mover, but I think it's going up.
Okay. One chart that seems to indicate higher tops and higher bottoms, but our experts will be better at it. Mitesh, Axis Bank, that one is starting with a 1% gain today. How would you trade it for the day or positionally?
I do like the stock a lot if you were to talk about a positional view, and I think the stock, once it gets past the 635 640 zone, should head towards 665, beyond which 720 could happen. So there are good targets possible on the upside. I'm still waiting for that momentum to kick in into the stock.